Hello students, myself Mrs. Yogita Sawant. I am working as Assistant Professor in Electronics Engineering Department, DKT's Textile and Engineering Institute. In this semester, I am going to teach Electromagnetic Engineering for third year students. So, welcome to the course of Electromagnetic Engineering. Hello students, in this lecture, we are going to study Unit 2, that is Electrostatics. The contents of this chapter are: first, Coulomb's law and electric field. Second, electric field intensity. Field due to distributed charges. Flux density. Gauss law and its applications. Divergence theorem. Electrostatic potential. Potential gradient. Electric dipole and electrostatic energy density. So as we know that electromagnetics is study of effect of charges at rest and charges in motion. It is a branch of physics where the phenomena related to electric field and magnetic field are studied. Some special cases of electromagnetics are electrostatics. Electrostatic means the study of charges at rest, and study of charges are at rest is dealing with electric field. Study of electric field is nothing but study of electrostatics. Similarly, the charges which are in motion that constitute a magnetic field, and study of such field is nothing but magnetostatics, because charges in motion will constitute a current and that current will generate a magnetic field. So magnetostatics is nothing but study of such magnetic fields. In electromagnetic waves, both of these fields are incorporated together. The waves are excited by charges and they are in motion. So electromagnetic wave constitute both electric field and magnetic field together. So to study electrostatic, we have to find what is electric charge. Electric charge is studied by basic physics theory. As we know that a matter is made up of atoms. Each atom it consists of proton, neutron and electron. Proton and neutron are present in the nucleus and electrons are revolving around the nucleus. Proton is positively charged and electron is negatively charged. The electrons are present in the orbit, and when they are free to rotate and they can escape from the last shell. So electric charge is defined as it is fundamental property of matter and it exists in integral multiple of one electron charge. Electric charge is fundamental property of matter and it exists in integral multiple of one electron charge. With this, we have seen in our school days some experiment where static electricity has been produced with some experiments. Static electricity can be produced by rubbing two bodies, and by doing this we can transfer electrons from one body to another body. For example, if we rub a glass rod with a silk cloth, then the glass rod becomes positively charged and silk cloth becomes negatively charged. Why this happens? Because the glass rod loses its electrons and the silk cloth gains the electrons. So losing of electrons becomes converts that object into positively charged. Similarly, another example is there where an ebonite rod is rubbed on a fur cloth. As a result, ebonite becomes negatively charged because it gains electrons, and the fur cloth becomes positively charged because it loses its electrons. Thus, this is a physics experiment where we have studied static electricity. So we can define some properties of an electric charge as electric charge is transferred by friction. When the bodies are rubbed together, the electric charge can be transferred and their net charge becomes different. The effect of electric charge can be observed in attraction or repulsion of various objects when charged. We have seen the in the previous experiment here when that ebonite rod gets charged, positively charged or negatively charged, then it attracts paper cuttings, small paper cuts, because there is a force of attraction between opposite charges. The paper cuttings may be positively charged, and the ebonite rod has become negatively charged. So, if there is a force of attraction, the particles of paper are attracted towards the ebonite rod. So, this is the second property where which tells us that there may be force of attraction or force of repulsion between the charged particles or charged objects. Next property is the electric charge is an integer multiple of smallest unit of charge, which is equal to magnitude of 1 electron charge. Then how much is 1 electron charge? 1 electron charge is equal to E, which is indicated by E, and it is equal to 1.6 into 10 raised to 19 coulombs. 1 electron charge is equal to 1.6 into 10 raised to 19 coulombs. This means the coulomb is unit of electric charge, and 1 coulomb is equal to 653 into 10 raised to 18 electrons. So if we want 1 coulomb charge, then this much vast amount of electrons are needed. And 1 coulomb is defined in another way as it is amount of electricity that is conveyed by an electric current of 1 ampere in 1 second. So electric charge, static electric charge and dynamic electric charge are responsible to constitute a current, and that will generate an electric field. So by knowing the facts about the electric charge, we can move towards the further important parameters. The charges comes in two varieties. As the matter has positive as well as negative charges, similarly we can say that the charge comes in two varieties. First is positive, or it can be negative. On an atomic scale, electrons are negatively charged. We have seen that figure where electrons are revolving around the nuclei. They are negatively charged and nucleus is positively charged. So objects carrying net positive charge attracts a net negative charge. This is known as force of attraction, and they repel those carrying a net positive charge. So similar charges repel each other, opposite charges attract each other. In the similar way, we can say that objects carrying a net negative charge attract those carrying a net positive charge and repel those carrying a net negative charge. In this diagram, it is shown that two positive charges repelling each other. In the second diagram, we can see that two negative charges also repel each other, but one positive charge and one negative charge attract each other. By seeing these all laws, we can say that there must be some kind of force between the charges. So Charles D. Coulomb was the first scientist who defined the Coulomb's law, as he stated that the magnitude of force between two charges is proportional to the product of two charges, and it is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two charges. And this force acts in a line containing the two charges. In the figure, we can see there are two charges Q1 and Q2, and these two charges are point charges, and they are separated by a small distance r. This distance is very large as compared to the size of these two charges. Then the force exerted by Q1 or force exerted by Q2 in general is given as F is equal to some constant K into Q1 into Q2 divided by R square. It can be a capital R or it can be a small r, where Q1 and Q2 are magnitudes of charge on each particle. Q1 and Q2 may be positive or they may be negative. If they are same, then there is force of repulsion as we already studied, and if they are opposite, then there is always a force of attraction. The K is known as proportionality constant, and it is given by K is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon. K is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon, where epsilon is permittivity, and it is given by epsilon is equal to epsilon r into epsilon naught, where epsilon r is relative permittivity and epsilon naught is permittivity of free space. But all the time we are going to consider that the charges are present in air or in free space. So epsilon is directly equal to epsilon naught, and value of epsilon naught is equal to 8.85 into 10 raised to minus 12 farad per meter, which is again equal to 10 raised to minus 9 divided by 36 pi farad per meter. We have studied in this equation F, which tells us only magnitude of the force. But the force is a vector quantity. It has some direction. So the vector forms of Coulomb's law is given by force in vector form is equal to F12 is equal to Q1 into Q2 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught R12 square into A cap R12. What does it tells? See in the figure, there are two charges Q1 and Q2, and F12 is going towards Q2. F12 is going towards Q2 from Q1. The arrow indicates the direction of this force, and this force is from charge Q1 onto charge Q2, and R12 is distance between Q1 and Q2. So distance is also a vector quantity, hence it is indicated by the unit vector R12, or we can indicate it by a unit vector A cap R12. So in this equation F12, A cap R12 indicates the direction of the force, and F12 is nothing but force exerted on Q2 by charge Q1, and R12 is nothing but magnitude of the distance between Q1 and Q2. The unit vector is the directional vector, and it is given by, you might have studied this in the first chapter, that unit vector is nothing but the vector divided by its magnitude. So we can write A cap R12 is equal to vector R12 divided by the magnitude of vector R12. And in Cartesian system, we can find vector R12 by subtracting vector R2 and vector R1, where R2 is positional vector of charge 2 and R1 is positional vector of charge 1. See, in this diagram, it is indicated R2 is positional vector of charge Q2 from origin, and R1 is positional vector of charge Q1 from origin. So instead of subtracting R2 minus R1, we can directly subtract the coordinates of point Q2 and Q1 where these two charges are situated. So F12 bar is equal to Q1 Q2 4 pi epsilon naught magnitude of R12 square into A cap R12. When Q1 exerts a force on Q2, in the similar way, Q2 can exert force on Q1. Both the forces are having same magnitude. Both the forces will have same magnitude, but the directions are exactly opposite. So, we can write F12 is equal to negative of F21 or F12 vector is equal to negative of F21 vector. This means these two are opposite forces. The force is measured. So F21 is what? It is force exerted by charge Q2 on charge Q1, and the A cap 21 A cap 21 will indicate its direction, and that unit vector will be always opposite to the previous unit vector. So the force becomes negative. Now the force is measured in newtons. So newtons is unit of force. We already know this in physics. And two things we have come to the conclusion that the force is a vector quantity. Now suppose we consider one example where we find out what is the force exerted by Q1 on Q2. So the example is like this. Suppose a 10 nanocoulomb charge, that is Q1, is placed at distance 0, 0, 4 meters, and a second charge which is also equal to 10 nanocoulomb and it is equal to Q2 and it is placed on at 0, 4, 0. Then what we have to do? We have to find the force acting on Q2 from Q1. So here we have to find F12. So let us see the diagram. So if we plot these 2 points, that is first point of charge Q1, where the charge Q1 is situated, it is situated exactly on Z axis. See, because X coordinate is 0, Y coordinate is 0, and second charge Q2 is present exactly on Y axis. This is three-dimensional coordinate system, Cartesian coordinate system, where we have put both the charges. Now I want a force exerted on Q2. So I will go towards Q2. So the direction of force F12 is towards Q2. So what is the equation of the force? We already know equation of the force as F12 is equal to Q1 Q2 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught R12 square into A cap R12. So for this we require unit vector A cap R12. We need the magnitude of R12. So one by one we are going to calculate it. So first we have to calculate the vector of R12. Vector means distance vector of R12, and the formula is R2 minus R1, or we can just directly subtract the coordinates of point 2 and point 1. So from Q2 we are going to subtract Q1 coordinates. So after subtracting, it will be equal to 0 minus 0 AX cap, then 4 minus 0 AY cap, and then 0 minus 4 AZ cap. So that becomes equal to 4 AY cap minus 4 AZ cap. So vector R12 is equal to 4 AY cap minus 4 AZ cap. Now this is the vector. We need its magnitude also. So mod of R12 is equal to magnitude of R12 is equal to square root of 4 square coefficient of AY plus 4 square, that is coefficient of AZ. After solving this, we'll get square root of 32, and that is equivalent to 4 root 2. We can keep it the square root of 32 as it is. Next, now we have to find out the unit vector a cap 1 2, right? Then r12 divided by r1 by mod of r12 we have to perform. So what is r12? It is an equation because it is a vector. So 4ay minus 4az is our vector, divided by the magnitude we got was 4 square root of 2. After dividing it separately, we got 1 by root 2 ay cap minus 1 by root 2 az cap. Now this is our whole a12. Then finally we'll put all the quantities in the equation. So f12 bar is equal to q1 q2 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught magnitude of r12 square into a cap r12. So what is value of Q1? It is 10 nanocoulombs. Nanocoulombs means 10 raised to minus 9. So 10 into 10 raised to minus 9 is one charge. Another charge is also positive, 10 into 10 raised to minus 9 divided by 4 pi. Value of epsilon naught is 8.854 into 10 raised to minus 12. Magnitude of R12 is 4 root 2. There should be the square of this magnitude, and we have written all the whole equation of a cap 12 in the bracket. So after solving all these parameters, we get final equation as 4.0 ay cap minus 4.0 az cap, and into 10 raised to minus 9. So we can directly write nanonewton. So F12 is what? 4 ay cap minus 4 az cap nanonewton. We can also find the magnitude of this F12, and it is equal to square root of 4 square plus 4 square, and that is equal to square root of again 32. So that is nothing but magnitude of force F12. Right now we are seeing the vector F12, and it is 4ay minus 4az nanonewton. So students, in today's lecture we have learned about what do you mean by electrostatics, what is electric charge, the statement of Coulomb's law and its derivation, equation for force for point charges using Coulomb's law. We have derived this equation, and we have solved one example to find force on one charge due to another charge. So in the next lecture, we can see the derivations for multiple point charges to find the force due to multiple point charges using Coulomb's law.